pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. I welcome you all to the very chilly February regular meeting of the McIntosh County Board of Commissioners. It's nice to have you all here today. We had our normally scheduled workshop last night and a lot of discussions occurred. Before I call the meeting to order, I see a distinguished dignitary in the back there carrying a brown envelope. Sheriff Jessup.
Good morning. It's always a privilege to come down here before you all. Y'all sit in a tough seat. It's a very thankless job, but I'm going to be short and sweet. Wish you all a good morning and very happy New Year. A little late, but I hope the year prospers for our county and we all do well. I'm going to present now $152,698.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. I'm going down to the finance department. Thank you, Sheriff Jessup. I'll now call the meeting to order, and all our commissioners and staff are present. Thank you for being here today. The first item of business will be to approve the order of the agenda, and I'll entertain a motion to do so.
Motion to approve.
Commissioner Stevens, is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Watson. Any discussion? If there are none, please, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is unanimous. Next, we'll be approving two sets of minutes. We had no call meetings in January, so you have your regular meeting minutes as well as your work session minutes. If there are no amendments to those minutes, I would entertain a motion to approve them as presented. Commissioner Williams, and the second, please.
Second.
Commissioner Jordan seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. All right, we have a couple of visitor presentations today. Ms. Linda Jeans of the Ida Hilton Public Library is on our agenda. However, she spoke to our board last night, and so she has declined to appear today. But she did want to bring to our attention a wine tasting event that will be raising money for the Ida Hilton Public Library, and that will be held on Thursday, May 5th. From 5:30 to 7:30 at Open Gates Bed and Breakfast on Vernon Square in Janien. And I hope that people will participate in that. You can get tickets at the library. That's a great way to raise funds and supplement their budget, and they do a good job of staying within their budget and having a big job before them to operate our library, which is so important to our community. So Linda Jeans will not be here, but we will move on to Miss Alberta Mabry, who is going to address us on transportation. I believe Miss Mabry is here. Please take the stand. You can turn that if you want, Miss Mabry, or however you're comfortable.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And Happy New Year. And it's been quite a while since I've been to a county commissioners meeting. And I'm here this morning to speak about our transportation system. It's been in existence now for 7 or 8 years, and we're still having major problems. And we've had several meetings with the director, and nothing is being done. And then we never hear about it, through any of the commissioners. Nobody says anything about it. There's a lot of people in the community that don't even know that the service is available to them. So we have to make sure that the community knows that the service is here and it's available for people who want to take advantage of it. And it's a needed service in this community. And I'm one that really needs it. I'm a non-driver, so I really depend greatly on the service. But they're not responding to our needs, and something has to be done about it.
Any questions for Ms. Mabry? I believe when you say they and you refer to the director, you're talking about the Coastal Regional Commission.
Yes.
And we support their coaches, and I know that there's always room for improvement as far as delivery. They've had some real issues with funding that service. But, you know, I'm sure we
Yeah,
can.
but even with the funding conditions, if it is, they are supposed to still provide a service for us. And if I call and have a doctor's appointment, I don't want them telling me that I should cancel my appointment because they have to take the seniors.
Okay.
Or if I make an appointment, if I have to get to the airport, and you know you cannot cancel a flight, and they're going to be telling you, well, we can't get you there until thus and thus time, when you're telling them that you have to be there at a certain time.
Yes.
Just last Friday, I had an appointment with my doctor. They were to pick me up at 3 o'clock. The driver is waiting in the parking lot. And when we call in, we have to give an address as to where we're going, the time that you want to be picked up from your door, and the time that you want to be picked up from where you're being dropped off. So evidently, the drivers, they're not giving out the information, because why would she be sitting in the parking lot when I'm in the doctor's office waiting for her to pick me up?
Okay. Any questions or comments?
I had a call last month about somewhat the same issue, and I talked to the director out there, and he explained to me that they were facing some pretty tough budget cuts and funding issues, and that they were still trying to honor the schedules of the regular riders. And a lot of times new riders get bumped to the bottom of the list, but they were trying to honor those schedules, and it was just they were working on it, and they knew that they needed to improve, and hopefully soon they would get the schedules figured out and provide a little bit better service. That they were lacking in some areas. They acknowledged it.
But they make provisions for other services. You know, like they would make provisions for the people on Tybee Island to get to the St. Patrick's Day parade, and we can't even get a bus to take us to a doctor's appointment. Or they can make provisions to get people over to Jekyll Island. They have workers over there working at some hotel. So if they can do all those things for those people, then they need to be doing the same thing for the people here in the community.
Great. I'll be glad to reach out to him and address that with him as well. He told me anytime that we had issues to please let him know, so I'll be glad to reach out to him. That's probably anyone else up here would be as well.
And then I wanted to find out, every year the seniors have a senior week up at the Capitol, and I'm asking all of you if it would be possible for you all to make it possible for some concerned seniors in this community to go to at least one day. They have 2 days there, the 24th and the 25th. If we could have a bus, if they can make buses to do all these other things, then they should make some provisions for us to get up there to the Capitol.
Okay. Thank you for your questions. We appreciate that. Any comments? Thank you.
Do you think, Commissioner Spratt, that could be possible?
I really don't know. I mean, we'd have to talk about it as a board and look at liability and issues, and if we even have a vehicle. I know we have a leisure services vehicle, but I'm not sure.
No, I'm talking about coastal.
Oh, the CRC vehicle
Yes.
taking you? Well, we can certainly ask Mr. Burns about that as well.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we'll be happy to reach out to him.
Mhm.
Sure. Okay. All right. Thank you, Ms. Mabry.
Okay.
Okay, that concludes our visitor presentations. We have no public hearings, no old business, so we'll move right into new business today. We will, item number 1, consider 3 appointments to the McIntosh County Zoning Board. We've got applicants in front of us, and we have duly advertised and properly notified the public about these position openings. Is there any motion, or what's the will of this board?
On the zoning,
Yes.
I would offer a motion of page to appoint Mr. Thomas, Mr. Chamberlain, and Mr. Gabler to those 3 positions.
Okay, we have a motion to appoint those 3
Second.
gentlemen in a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Again, as I always say, but I mean it, we are very grateful to our citizens that volunteer and serve on these really important boards. They get a smidgen of a stipend. It's not enough to do anything with, but we are very grateful for their service to our county on all of these boards when we advertise. All right, that brings us to our next item under new business, and that is to consider proclaiming February 15th through 19th Small Business Week. We have a proclamation in front of us that was provided by Mandy at the chamber. Mandy, do you have anything to say about this? Okay, it's all here in writing. This is if I'm correct, this is an initiative by Governor Deal to declare Small Business Week statewide, and McIntosh is just adding our support to that proclamation. And certainly we have a lot of small businesses here in our community that need our support. Downtown Darien is starting to grow with some new businesses, Eulonia and up in Shellman, and throughout our community we have services and businesses that we can use locally, and I hope that we will always keep that in mind and give our locals preference when we make these kind of decisions as to where to spend our money. It's good for us, it's good for them, but it's also good for the county as well. Are there any discussions or comments about proclaiming Small Business Week in McIntosh County for February 15th through February 19th? Would someone offer a motion to approve the proclamation?
Motion to approve.
Commissioner Stevens, and a second, please.
Second.
Commissioner Watson, any discussion? Well, hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. All right, the next item would be number 3, to consider resolution 2016-5, which will be approving a SPLOST intergovernmental agreement and authorizing the chairman to execute the agreement on behalf of the county with the city of Darien. This will be the first of 3 SPLOST items on our agenda. I'm going to ask the manager to present this to us, and you're welcome to present all 3 at the same time if you like, or however you prefer to proceed.
Okay, I think we'll just do item by item.
Okay.
Resolution 2016-5 is an intergovernmental agreement that's required by law. It's required by law if you want to have a 6-year SPLOST instead of the state allowed 5-year SPLOST. SPLOST is a county tax, and that's the way state law defines it. However, it does also provide provisions in which other entities, primarily municipalities and some regional authorities, may be eligible for the tax as well. So what the law does is it allows for the county and any municipalities to have an extra year, a 6th year of the tax, in exchange for getting an intergovernmental agreement. The intergovernmental agreement sets forth really the distribution of the SPLOST funds, and if you can do that by intergovernmental agreement, that demonstrates that there's very little controversy and everybody's on the same page. So this first resolution carries forth the provisions from the preceding SPLOST. We know that this is a 6-year tax. The current one expires the end of September of 2016. We'll get into a little bit later when we actually call for the referendum. But this resolution specifically, what it does, it sets forth the terms by which the city of Darien would be a recipient of SPLOST funds, and it honors the exact same distribution that we used prior to that, which is 80% of SPLOST funds are earmarked for the county, 20% would be distributed to the city. This intergovernmental agreement would be provided to the city of Darien, and they would have to ratify that at the next meeting for 6-year SPLOST. So this would be the first step in getting them on board as well.
All right, any discussions or questions? I assume this would be on the city agenda at their meeting next week.
That'd be right.
All right. Okay. If there's no questions or comments, I will entertain a motion to approve resolution 2016-5.
I'll make that motion.
Commissioner Watson makes a motion in a second.
I'll second.
Commissioner Lewis seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Are there any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Our next item is to do practically the exact same thing, but an intergovernmental agreement concerning the SPLOST with the McIntosh County Industrial Development Authority. And I'll ask the manager to also present this item to us.
Very similar to the first item, state law requires that any regional authority, by that definition, there's tons and tons of authorities, are also eligible perhaps to be a recipient of SPLOST funds, but however, that has to be done via intergovernmental agreement as well. So this intergovernmental agreement just sets forth the laws, the provisions, what would be expected of them in accounting, in their accounting processes, and how they really go about receiving the money and the checks and balances. So it's an agreement very similar to the one for the municipality.
Any questions? Go ahead.
What is the percentage for the industrial?
Theirs is not a percent. What we have in the SPLOST, two SPLOST ago, you did have to go by percents. That's changed, except for distributing between city and county. And so what you do with regional authorities is, they prepare a list of projects just like anybody else, and then you literally pick the projects that you want to fund. So if you'll look in your agreement, it would be the very last page, and the item that we provided for in this SPLOST would be an industrial building. So something akin to a spec building for a potential industrial customer. We're projected to make that expense in year 2.
Okay, so they're gonna get out a percentage of about 80%.
Well, you're right.
Whatever is needed.
What that money would come out of our 80%. That's correct.
Okay.
I'll offer a motion to approve if there's no more discussion.
Motion to approve. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Commissioner Williams seconds. Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor of the resolution, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. All right, the next item on our agenda is to talk about the actual SPLOST that we were just approving intergovernmental agreements regarding. And this would be in the form of Resolution 2016-7, calling for an election to impose a county special purpose local option sales tax. I'm going to obviously ask the manager to present this. Before I do that, I will recognize the fact that our staff has been very focused and working hard with department heads and the other agencies to design a SPLOST that will have widespread support. I think there's a lot of fire engines on here and some road paving and a lot of really great projects that are enveloped in this particular SPLOST, including a leisure services facility that has been identified over and over again by the community when we get together for visioning or strategic planning as an item that is very much desired and wanted by our community, not just to facilitate our children and adults who are involved in sports, but also to attract the types of business or the types of groups that will come in for tournament play and stay locally in our hotels and spend money in our community. So we have quite a broad spectrum of projects enveloped in our SPLOST. I'll also say that we have been really fortunate and the beneficiary of our close relationship with the city of Darien. When you look at other communities, even just right down the road in Glen and Brunswick, you'll read in the paper of how they are having to go to arbitration or go to court to argue over the percentages of their local option sales tax and also their SPLOST. And the fact that the city and county have traditionally worked well together and both approved these SPLOST items moving forward awards us that extra year to continue this penny. And then finally, we all are aware that a large percentage of these pennies that are generated on the dollar are spent by people who are passing through our community. And so a lot of this revenue takes pressure off of the backs of our property owners and our taxpayers in the form of a very fair consumer tax that's the same on everybody. When you spend the money, you generate that penny, whether or not you own a piece of property here in McIntosh County. So in many ways, this is, I always say, this will be the most important thing we do all year, whether it's the budget. I know I say that a lot, but really, this is the most important thing we're going to do this year, in my opinion. And we only do it every 6 years, but it's really crucial. And you hear, if you listen to our county commission meetings throughout the year, you'll hear us referring to SPLOST fund and how we're able to take care of some emergency project because we were able to cover that in the language of the 2005 or the 2010 SPLOST. So I think the community has a strong understanding of where this money comes from and how it's spent, and the fact that it's the voters who approve this on the referendum, which we intend to be on May 24th when the county has its primaries. So with that said, I'll ask the manager to introduce this item to the board.
I'd be glad to. So the intergovernmental agreements were all required by law to happen before you consider the item we're on now. What we are doing here is a lot of things within one document. The first thing this does is this is literally calling for the referendum to appear on the ballot. That referendum would be, should the county impose a 1% sales tax for 6 years? In addition to that, the requirements that we have to fulfill are that the referendum has to be called, and when I say called, has to be approved by the Board of Commission, has to be duly advertised in the legal organ at least 90 days prior to the referendum question being presented on the ballot before the citizens. So when you look at the timeline that we're working with this year, the May 24th general primary is the only date that would allow for this to be put forth on a referendum and allow for the tax, if approved by the voters, to fund continuously. So that is the anticipation. We'll get this all approved, and then we'll have this noticed in the Darien News by the end of February. Outside of that, this agreement also has a complete line item list of projects. Now, the line item list of projects is not what you're going to read on your ballot. If you did, your ballot would be 10 pages long. However, by law, we're required to have all these documents in the Board of Elections office and also on file at the County Commission office. So they are obviously there to be reviewed. So you're a little bit familiar with the list of projects, and this is literally where we call for the referendum to put it to the voters. I only have a few comments that I want to make. Also contained in this would be a second question that we will ask the voters simultaneously, and that's specifically to advance funding for one of the projects. So in this SPLOST referendum, they would be presented two questions. The first would be, should the county impose a 1% tax? And theoretically that could pass or fail. The second question would be related to one of the projects that we have on our list. And that project is to build a new leisure services complex. So what we provided for in the agreement is for a mechanism to design that complex and build that complex. However, it would require the county commission to bond it. There's no way that we would be able to pay cash for that or pay for that in advance. To do that, you would have no SPLOST, and you just can't function like that. So we're specifically asking the voters to allow us or give us the legal authority to issue a bond, and then we would use SPLOST revenue to retire that debt. So this could be a 30-year bond, 40-year bond, however, SPLOST and future SPLOST would be used to pay for that debt. So clearly the language is in here to allow for that to happen. The only other thing that I'll do just real quickly is, I think the chairman's mentioned some of the projects, just, a few. This certainly is not it's not everything on the list, but as I flip through the list, just a few things that jump out to me that I think are pretty important. Number one would be, of course, the leisure service complex. We bought property 2 or 3 years ago for this, and we discussed it. So You know, currently we're talking about, you know, 4 baseball fields, 2 football fields, 2 soccer fields, a track, amenities, depending on pricing. It could be a nature trail. So this would be a full-service complex that I think we can all see the benefit of. The second item is actually has funding earmarked for a visitor center. We discussed that. It was provided in the last SPLOST, but it did not get a high priority. And we'll be considering potentially buying property a little later on this agenda specifically for the visitors center, which I think is pretty important too. We're going to get people off the interstate and get them in the downtown area. We do have money for a couple fire stations, one of which is on Sapelo. We've discussed that for at least 5 years, the necessity of that. We do have a little bit of funding to continue the Highlander Trail. If we're successful in getting CRC funds or any other funds, we've got a little bit we can use as a match there. And we do begin to fund parks and things of that nature. So in addition to that, there's other capital improvements and everything else you can imagine. And of course, you know, our biggest line item, of course, is roads and road paving and maintenance. However, you know, it is I think it's a broad SPLOST, but it's one that you got to understand. We're still at 10-year lows in our sales tax collection. So this is not the SPLOST you had 10 years ago. You would have probably had 30% more money. You know, however, we feel like sales tax has to go up. It would be very difficult for it to climb without recession. So hopefully, you know, we'll begin to see some growth in there. But that brings forth everything that I want you to be aware of, from the day of the referendum to us calling the referendum. This approves a list of projects, does authorize a bond, and this clears the way for the question to be presented to the voters clearly on the May 24th ballot.
Questions or comments about particular items?
I did, I have a couple. As I expressed last night at our workshop, I'm very concerned about the appropriation for our roads. I know what we spent over the past 4 years, and also, if SPLOST is passed, I know that it can only generate so much revenue for us. And I understand that we have lots of different areas of distribution for the money. But maybe we made a magic wand or something, but I just know there's a lot of requests in the 4 different districts for road improvements.
And I think you provided them with a proposed copy of the purchase contract.
The contract is within your agenda. They have not been presented with the appraisal yet, but we certainly have that as well.
All right, this could be a game changer at McIntosh County. I hope that we can, if we move forward with this, demolish that building really quickly. It'd be nice. What's the will of the board? Would y'all like some time in executive session? Would you like to move forward on approving the appraisal? Item 6.
I read over it yesterday and last night when we received it. I don't particularly need a executive session. I don't know what the other commissioners would like to do. I will say, and you may have said it, I may not have heard you say it, but this proposed purchase would be coming out of the 2010 SPLOST. Is that correct?
I believe that is correct.
And that was something.
And that was
in there.
approved by the voters for land acquisition.
Which piece of property was it?
This is the 3 acres that the Cafe Risque was located at, right off 251. We've had it appraised, and we are able to buy it for appraised value. I had the appraisal performed by Triggers Commercial, which tend to do very exceptional work with commercial property. I was fearful. The appraisal actually came in significantly lower than I thought it would. I did not think that we would make any progress in our negotiations. However, I was pleasantly surprised there. So the first thing I would ask you to do, we're required by law to accept an appraisal. So I would ask that you approve of the appraisal prepared by Driggers Commercial Group for this property.
Someone offer a motion to approve that appraisal?
So moved.
Mr. Stevens, and a second?
A second.
Second, Commissioner Watson. All right, any discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Any opposed?
Let me decline on that.
Okay. Let me just do this again. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I don't vote, but I just don't want to, I don't want to vote on that.
You're going to abstain?
Yeah, I stand from the board.
Do you want to offer a reason, or
Huh?
do you want to offer a reason?
No,
for
no,
abstention?
no.
Okay. Motion carries 3-0. All right. Next item would be to consider a contract for the acquisition of real property at the colloquially known Cafe Risque site on Highway 251. So item number 7, is there, you want to talk about that?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
we need to have discussion. The contract is consistent with the discussions I had with the property owners. Actually, the contract was prepared by our attorney, so it should be suitable to us. The purchase price for the property is $300,000. The original asking price was $650,000. Internally, we felt it would probably be $400,000 to $450,000. That's the number we kind of felt like it was going to take to buy the property. So we feel pretty good about being able to get 3 acres for $300,000 in that vicinity. That's a pretty good price. You can find acres in that proximity to the interstate for as much as $190,000. So we feel really good about that. One benefit to this site that some of the other sites that I didn't look at is it's buildable, it's ready. I mean, you essentially don't have to do a lot of moving of dirt or anything else. I mean, it's buildable. I do like that it has 3 acres. It certainly provides enough space that you can do other things with that property, and you also can host events there as well. So I think there's a lot of positives to come with that. I did not think we would be able to afford that property. So I'm happy with the appraisal. I'm happy with the price, and I'm happy that it's presented here. So we would strongly recommend that the county approve the contract and acquire the property.
So very often you get to buy a piece of property for less than half of what the asking price is for it, and certainly it would change the gateway to our community and the facade there with all those improvements that are happening at that exchange. The interchange would be really great to bring those people in and have a nice facility instead of an old worn out strip club there to welcome people to McIntosh. So this is exciting. Are there any questions or comments? Would someone offer a motion to approve the contract?
I'll make that motion.
Commissioner Watson, in the second, please.
I'll second.
Commissioner Williams, seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the contract for the acquisition, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, that's a big deal. All right, the next item on our agenda will be commissioner reports, so I'll kick it on down to Commissioner Williams and see what's on your mind today.
We're glad everybody's here today. We look forward to serving y'all. Also, to my Barrington people, we haven't gave up on it yet. We're still working on that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Watson?
Back to Sheldon Bluff. A couple of things that have happened or happened recently, which are very exciting. Number one is going to be the St. Patrick's Day Parade. It's going to be Saturday, the 19th of March. So please put that down on your calendar. I'll mention it again at next month's session, but I want to give everybody a heads up. But also, some of you may or may not be aware, the Friends of Sheldon Bluff have just recently made an acquisition up at Shelburne Bluff. It's a little over 4 acres of land, and it's just across the street from the car wash up there going up Shelburne Bluff Road. It was originally some property that Billy Bland owned, and Friends of Shelburne Bluff has just purchased it. Most of it is already fenced, and the idea is to have mainly a sort of a safe haven up there and a park for family type atmosphere. It's going to be a multi-use property as I understand it, but initially it's going to be an area that the exhibitors at St. Patrick's Day Parade can move into. It'll get them off the road, and it's going to provide some safety as well as a family atmosphere for the people that participate there. Also, it's planned to use this throughout the year from time to time for, I'm going to say concerts or for bands occasionally to come up and just provide a little fun atmosphere up at Shelburne Bluff. And it's, you know, it's not going to compete with anybody, but I think it's going to be a great thing. He's calling it a family park, and it's going to be a nonprofit entity. So it's going to be very exciting. Some things are going on up that way. If you haven't been up there in a while, please stop by.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Watson? Commissioner Gordon?
No.
Okay. Commissioner Lee?
Not really, just one thing I'll add to what Commissioner Williams said about the Barrington. I did happen to be a couple weeks ago riding around with one of the guys from DNR, and we rode up there, and I think the DNR is ready to move forward. I know the county is, we received the grant, but they're waiting for the water to receive it. They're ready. We rode out there and looked at it, and now the water's coming again, so I think as soon as that water gets down, you'll see some movement out there, some action, because I think everything's done. They've already acquired the docks, everything, so, between the county and them, so hopefully we'll all see something happen at Barrington soon.
Thank you.
That's it.
Okay. Chairman has no report, so I will ask the county manager. Is there anything to brief us on?
I think I'll pass.
You're welcome. All right. County attorney?
With the approval of the purchase contract, there's nothing to discuss in executive session. No need for that, and I have no report.
All right, with no further business for the McIntosh County Board of Commissioners, I will declare the meeting adjourned.